Welcome to Accelerate OC, the only show focused on the people leading innovation in Orange County. Join our host, Kerry Ransom, in his conversations with the trendsetters, entrepreneurs, investors, and leaders here, because it's time to Accelerate OC.
Good morning. Welcome to Accelerate OC. I'm Kerry Ransom, and Happy New Year. This is our first show of 2020, the new year, the new decade, and I could not be more excited to be back in the studio. And thanks to our engineer, Paul, for making me and my guests always sound so good. Today's episode is sponsored by the Orange County Startup Council, who's been stood up and led by my friend Scott Fox. And the Orange County Startup Council is the best online resource we really have here for all things startup in Orange County. You can find great Orange County companies, partners, events, and even talent. Just go to ocstartups.org. So my first guest, I couldn't be more excited to have Ike here. I'm really fired up. We've developed, I think, a good friendship over the last couple years, and I love his story. He's got so much wisdom, and as he says, he's already in the middle of building his company. He's ready to start giving back to others, even while he's still learning and growing. And he's just one of these people that I met early on and said, this guy has a huge ceiling. He's going to continue to grow. He's going to continue to flourish, and he's going to build a really big company here in Orange County. This is a guy I want to know, and I want to see how I can help in whatever way possible. So before we get to hear from Ike, and we'll talk about his philosophy around leadership and especially his current company, EPHESOFT, and how he got to that, let me give you a quick intro to him. So as I mentioned, he's the founder and CEO of a company here called EPHESOFT, and it's a software company that he founded about 10 years ago here in Orange County. And they have built the very first document capture platform for the cloud and have companies all over the world as customers. And they focus mainly in areas of automated data entry, compliance, and document processing. Before that, he was a senior technical architect and professional services manager at another longtime software company here called Kofax. And he has some great stories about how he leveraged that to really get some of the early folks and leaders into EPHESOFT. So we'll talk a little bit more about that today. He is a technologist through and through, and has, from that foundation, really committed, and this is what I saw in him, this commitment to growth personally as an entrepreneur, as a CEO, as a people leader. And I really admire that, because often when we develop a core expertise, we stay in that comfort zone. And I see in Ike a person who's really continued to stretch and push himself in a number of areas, and I greatly admire that. He epitomizes the modern entrepreneur and leader. He's got great passion, and I think he also represents what the future company leaders in this country, in this world, are going to be, in that I see somebody who deeply cares about all the constituents around a company. He is not just solely focused on shareholders. And, I think he represents what the Business Roundtable came out last year and said, we need to really reorient the purpose of a business, and that there are multiple stakeholders, customers, employees, the broader community in which we operate, as well as investors. And I think, we'll try and talk a little bit more about that today as well. Not surprisingly, Ike's won a bunch of awards, as is his company. They've been a high-tech innovation award winner. They've won Best Place to Work and Top Workplace several times over the years. And he was an Entrepreneur of the Year, E&Y Entrepreneur of the Year finalist this past year. And EPHESOFT has even been on the Inc. 500 list of the fastest growing companies as well. He's a super busy guy. He's traveling all over the world. So I feel really fortunate that we were able to align calendars and get him here on Accelerate OC. It's great to have you here today, Ike.
Thank you so much. It's so much pleasure to be here. I'm so excited.
Awesome. Well, let's get to the starting line. Introduce the audience to EPHESOFT and really how it came to become a startup company that you decided to pursue.
You want the long version?
Sure. We've got time.
So As you mentioned, I was working at this company, Kofax, for a while, and one day they decided that everything is invented in this space, and the only way to grow that company was to buy other companies and start selling their products and create a portfolio of products that they can sell. I just the idea of everything is invented just didn't jive with me. It just doesn't compute with me. It's an I think never-ending journey.
That's right.
It's our job as technologists to look at the technological advancements and where the society is, and then how we can actually merge those two together to build products and keep innovating in the space. So that's when I decided to leave, because I didn't like those decisions made at top. And I left one day. I had some plans on how to do it, and with my plans, I went to see some angel investors, VCs. Everybody said NO. Like I probably got lots of NOs, but I think you come to a conclusion that if you want to do something, you have to find a way, right? So I end up bootstrapping the company, and what I did was, I didn't have any money. I had my credit cards. I found a job as a freelancer. The money I made here in U.S. allowed me to hire 4 or 5 engineers in India to do the product. And I went to my friends. My attorney gave me a few $1,000s. That's how it started.
So that was almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And at what point in that early journey did you get a first customer where you said, okay, like, or what were those, if it wasn't a customer, what were the early validation points where I got to keep going? Like I'm on the right track.
Sure. I started in March, April timeframe. That's when I got my 4 engineers. By the time July came, I had a prototype. So I started calling people around, people I knew, people and their friends, see if I can show the product. I got good feedback, and then keep going at it. Sales doesn't happen on day one.
That's right.
I got my first sale December 28th of that year, 2010.
Okay.
$28,000. I remember exactly. That was my first customer, and then got the second one in February, third one in March of 2011. Grew from there.
Yes. So I think this is a great story, right? You said, okay, I can scratch together enough to get a prototype built. Yeah. I mean, this is the way a lot of great startups are efficiently begun, in that you had something you could show then, and at least was enough you could get feedback on and make some iterations too. But that early signal, were there things in that first prototype that really surprised you, where you said, oh, I mean, we got to totally change this, or we, like, where the customer feedback was surprising versus what you expected?
There are so many, and I think it's not just the first a few months. In the past 10 years, there's been a lot of surprises, and I think I'm one of those people that get excited about learning new skills and new experiences. So I thrive on that. But on those first times, it starts with the development team. I got these 4 developers, and I did some research. I found a company who can build a product and all that. They said, Ike, you need a project manager, to manage this. I said, no, I can do that. After a month, it was a big disaster. I went back to them and said, okay, I need a project manager on this one, that. I knew exactly what to do with the product. With the response was better than I expected, and I think that was because a little bit we were different. it is very hard sometimes. Some young entrepreneurs, this is what I would advise. Everybody says you need to have a 10x better product, 10x better product. You can't do that in day one. Sometimes,
It's almost impossible in day
it's
one.
almost
Yeah,
impossible.
That's right.
So, but you can be different, right? Different is good.
That's right.
And that's what I did with EPHESOFT. I think we were different. We tried to solve the same customer problems in different ways. That separated us, that created differentiation. Over time, we got 10x better and different. But it doesn't have to be on day one.
Sure. I think that is a great point, because in a lot of cases that 10x idea could keep you from even starting.
Yes. Yeah.
If you go, I just don't know how I'm going to get 10x, but you can definitely have a 10x better vision that you can build toward.
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of concepts that Silicon Valley is influencing everybody, right? In the Silicon Valley style, you have to have the 10x idea. You have to raise boatload of money.
Yes.
To hire the most expensive engineers to build that 10x product, and then you use the rest of the money for the marketing and sales to go capture that market before anyone else has the idea, because your next door might raise $10 more million than you and then start executing the same idea, right? Which is fine. It works well for many companies. I know a lot of entrepreneurs who built great businesses. But that's not the only way.
That's right.
Right? I think some entrepreneurs don't understand that every company is unique. Every company is different. You just have to find your own way, how you want to build your business.
That's right. I think that is so enlightening and refreshing to hear, in that there isn't a playbook. There are absolutely better or worse decisions to make along the way.
Yes.
But to believe that there's one way to do things is just just a really unhealthy place to start from, I think.
I call it hack your financing. I work with a lot of developers, engineers. They know how to hack the code, hack the products.
Sure.
But sometimes you also need to hack the financing. Going trying to find a VC on day one is lazy.
That's right.
Do your study, do your work, and decide how you want to grow this company. And if that doesn't work, switch.
Sure.
And try again, and switch. Try again. That's what entrepreneurs are all about.
That's right. I think it's so great. And what I feel like you're implying into that is, you really have to be committed first and foremost to doing it.
Yeah.
And once you're committed to doing it, then you're going to be willing to push through those other. And there are some people that would say, I'm not committed unless there's money in the bank ready to pay me day one to do it. And I'm not here to judge that that's a bad approach, but there definitely is a group of people that are probably minded that way, versus somebody says, I need to go do this. I'm going to go figure it out.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm in the middle of that right now with my new venture too, which is I felt called and compelled to go do it, and we're figuring it out as we go.
Yeah. There are millions of ways to do it. I remember a story. A professor at a university had these four people. They had this idea. They asked if he wants to invest, and he said, well, "What's your plan?" He said, "Well, I don't know. We might create a website. We might go find a job. We'll figure it out." He said, "I'm not going to invest in you." Yeah. And then those Warby Parker guys became billionaires, and he missed out. So there's a million ways to do this.
That's right. That's a great story. Well, let's pivot just a little bit here, but a good transition. So you went, you talked about the early stage. You got a customer in your first year. You were hacking the funding of your company for several years before you actually raised outside institutional capital. And I think Joe, who was your first investor,
I don't know who Joe is.
Is the one who introduced us. So
Yes.
I'm very grateful to him for even introducing us a few years ago. So you raised a Series A several years in. Talk about, did you along the way sort of pick your head up and talk to potential investors? Did you just say, things are going, we're going to keep going? And then there was a point at which you
Sure.
said, okay, maybe it's now time. Like, what was the sort of the funding strategy along the way?
Sure. I did talk to a lot of VCs along the way.
Okay.
It just did not jive with what we were doing, and the VCs are very smart. There's a reason they are VCs because they're very smart, but they have their own agendas. It just didn't jive with mine at the time. We were growing very fast. We didn't need the money in the early days for the first 7 years, as you said, Inc. 500. And as I was talking to investors, it was hard to connect with some of them. I talked to some of the biggest ones in Silicon Valley. They said, well, we invest minimum $50 million. Are you the next Facebook? That's the only what we care. And our returns are this and that, and then we get this much return in 2 years. That just didn't jive at the time. When we hit about $12 million in revenue, then I said, okay, we are past the point, and I need a partner so that can actually help me take there, because I didn't know the challenges of growing company in the next corner and the corner after that. So I started looking for a special partner that fits to my goals. That's when I found, Mercado Partners, Joe Kaiser. They had experts in the team, the human capital expert, marketing expert, sales expert, so they could become my advisors. They are VCs. They're looking for the return on their money as well. So we are also aligned there at some point when the time is right. But it was a right mix at the time that I felt they can help me become the next generation CEO to take the company, because I have to be that person so that the company can get there faster.
Sure. That's great, and thank you for sharing that. So let's go into the hood a little bit. They've now been a partner with you for at least a couple of years. What's changed in the business during that time frame? I mean, has it been that really fuel on the fire that you were hoping for?
Tremendously.
Yeah.
I think their first advice to me was to find the right generals. From the early days, I in the first 7 years, I actually had a CEO. I wasn't the CEO. I brought in my boss's boss.
This is a great story. Yes.
From the previous company, because it wasn't about my ego. It was about building a great company, and he had skills that I didn't. He knew how to build teams, how to put together people. He knew the organization challenges that we need to establish. I was a techie, right? So for the first 7 years, as he was the CEO, I was training in the background. When the VC Series A came, said, okay, number one thing we need to do is to find my general so that I can actually relinquish my duties so that we can start scale. I start to find these extraordinary people that you can't believe, Gary. These people have been with some companies who helped them grow from 1 billion to 6 billion. They've been with startups. They've seen the struggles of a startup, how to scrape the bottom sometimes to make it happen. I have a CFO, CTO, human capital, marketing. Hopefully I'll have my CRO very soon. That was the first advice. I think that gives the founder and CEO ability to rise up, look at the forest rather than being in the forest, and be the champion of the vision, and then be clear about where do you want to take the company while they execute and run the company.
Yeah, I think that's very, very good advice. I mean, one of the things I've heard described is, as a CEO, as your company evolves and grows, ultimately the only 3 jobs that you probably retain as CEO are, and you've mentioned all those. Number one is maintaining and casting that vision.
Mm-hmm.
2 is making sure your company's properly capitalized. And
Yes.
3 is getting those people on the team,
Yeah.
being that recruiter, particularly of those generals
Yes.
that need to help you execute on that
Yeah.
vision. And everything else, somebody else probably should be doing as you
That's
evolve.
right.
So, you know,
Yes.
the fact that you just sort of naturally orient to that, I think shows that you have the ability to really take this forward for
You're giving me
for the
goosebumps now.
foreseeable
Thank you.
future. Yeah,
Working on it every day.
because that's not. I know a lot of folks like you, as you know. I have a lot of friends here, and a lot of people I know, and not everybody orients that way. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think just that your
Thank you.
your natural understanding of that is really powerful.
Thank you.
So you mentioned that you brought in a CEO, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the most compelling stories. As you know, and as a story, you know, hopefully you share with other folks that as you're doing recruiting, because that's a great part of the EPHESOFT story, in my opinion, and rare, because it shows a humility, it shows a growth. So, what was it that led you to that? It was your company. You were funding it. You didn't need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that led you to say, you know what, I need to bring in somebody? Because he could have just been an advisor. He could have just been
Yeah.
a friend of the company, but you brought him in, you paid him, you know, like that's a big step. And I'm just really curious to hear, you know, what led you to decide that's the way I need to do this.
It wasn't hard because it's about the goals you set out, right? The goal was to build a great company, a great company that can flourish new generation of leaders, a company that can provide good software so that we can actually make their lives better, and change the world. That's the idea. And when you look at it from that perspective, say, okay, I can't do this alone. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What type of people I need to surround myself to complete the puzzle? Right? That's all that is. And he was one of those puzzle pieces, and I was one of the puzzle pieces, and then try to find the other ones. It's a startup is multidimensional, so you have to look at these different dimensions and then know yourself where you are at that stage, and see how you can bring other people in to play with you.
That's great. So how does that translate into the way you think about people and culture and leadership in the company today?
Sure.
Because there are going to be some people, you mentioned some of the generals that you brought in that have tremendous experience, and there are going to be others that maybe they don't have the full experience and they need to grow. They need to learn. So how are you thinking about those puzzle pieces as the company evolves?
Sure. So I'll tell you a few different ways. One is it's all about people.
Yes.
No, products you build are done by people. It's sold by people. The customers are serviced by people. Everything is people. So it is very important to find the right people to fit the right culture. In the early days, it was just me. I didn't articulate what it is. A few years back, we did it. But as the entrepreneur, the one of the best things is you get to decide what the culture is, and you have to be very authentic of yourself, right? There are great cultures out there, you know, from Google, Amazon, Facebook, Zappos, like great cultures. But those are the cultures of the entrepreneur who started that company. They decided how they want to work with other people towards a goal, right? So I created my own, right? And that's also one of the things that I recommend to young entrepreneurs: be authentic, create your own, and decide how you want to work with others, and that's your culture. So my principles are, you know, we work together for a very long time. We spend most of our time together, so we have to jive. we have to align with our goals, what makes us happy. One of the core values we have is we need to be builders and fixers. That's what it says, builders and fixers wanted. That's what we do. We build and then fix every day, right? The other one is no egos. We have 6 core values, but there is also one hidden one that we don't talk much. No egos. We don't like egos at a company. You might be the greatest of what you do, but if you come and destroy and you're a bull in a china shop, you don't belong to EPHESOFT. So you define those and you find the people that fits. And I'll tell you one last thing. When I read these books, it says, oh, I was in the early days of Salesforce, and we did this, we did that, and I wrote a book now with my experiences, and I'm so successful now. I love and hate those books. I love them because I love the story, how that person grew. I hate them because I want my people to be able to write those things, and that's why I work every day so that they can write those books one day.
That's super cool. Super cool. Well, I started Accelerate OC really for folks like you. This was designed to be a place I have such privilege of building a friendship over the last few years, and you have an amazing story. We have great folks here in county doing amazing things, trying to change the world like you are, and trying to build companies of significance here in Orange County. So let's talk for a few minutes about Orange County. How do you think about Orange County as a place to start and build a company?
As you know, I'm part of CLA, CEO Leadership Alliance, and we're trying to create an ecosystem here with the innovation, talent, funding, education, and all that. There's so much we need to do, and there's a huge potential here for that. I also get involved with the UCI. Just visit Richard and see if I can do it. But by looking at the forest again from a few steps back, for an entrepreneur, every place, everywhere is a perfect place. You just need to find what's good for the place you live in, and find those nuggets to make you successful. So there is no excuse, right? That's what I'm trying to say. You can be in LA, Orange County, Silicon Valley, doesn't really matter. But for Orange County, if you want to find what's good about this place, there are many. There are many opportunities in the UCI, the Cove. The CLA Alliance is working on great stuff. There is enough talent pool because of the universities, so you can actually go and find the people who will complement you, to complete you. If you don't have some skills, there are great organizations that will give you education as part of the Cove and others as well. But the bottom line is, stop wasting your time, start doing it, and then you'll find the help. And the Orange County has lots of places to give you help.
That's great. Well, so follow up to that. One of the things I talk about a lot is, I believe we need to be more community oriented, right? This notion of how can we help? I get inspired when folks like you put a stake in the ground and say, I'm going to build a company here, and I want to help. So what are things you think others in the community, a lot of the listeners of Accelerate OC are people that have that same ethos. What are things you think we as a community can do better to help entrepreneurs in those early stages?
Earlier we were talking about the acceptance of being an entrepreneur. I think community can help with that a lot. I came to the United States with nothing in my pocket. What I love about this country is the competition aspect. If you compete and you're better than your competition, you succeed. You provide value to consumers, customers, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And the core of that is entrepreneurship. You start a company in this country to make a difference. That's how this country came about. Not everybody will be entrepreneur. I'm also recognizing that we need engineers and developers, designers, and marketing people to create their own ways. But if you have the bug in you, we need to make sure the community supports that idea. It's okay to be unsuccessful. I think, maybe 5%, 6% succeeds to a certain level, and then another 1%. So the odds are really against you. But if you succeed, you will be part of changing the world. I think that's worth trying. And I think everybody in the community needs to recognize that we need to start seeing entrepreneurs as the heroes of our future, of this country. If we think that way, I think more people will take the risk, take out their credit cards, go up to their friends or the attorneys and start something. Look, I have 160 people now. We are 160 strong. Say 3-4 people. That means companies feeding 450, 600, 500 people, and we have 1,000 customers, and then we make their lives better. So, and in 53 countries, I mean, I have goosebumps every day. Impacting this many lives, it's worth it.
That's right.
Just jump.
That's a great inspiring, call to action. It's great. So last question. Paul's giving me the time sign over here. I told you it would go too quickly.
Fast.
As you think ahead, you talk about Orange County. We need to produce more innovation jobs here in the coming decade. That's a core part of why CLA has come together. What areas around technology do you think we have the ability to really lead in, nationally, globally as a county?
Sure. I'll give you the thesis first. It's hard to predict what's going to come next, but the entrepreneurs need to look at the technological advances in one axis and the society's acceptance on the other one, and where they meet, new ideas, new ways of doing business, new ways to help consumers achieve something. So that will always be there. But if you look at today, my focus is actually in AI. I studied a little bit back the steam engines. It changed the world and created railroads and trade across the country in the world. Then the robotics with the production lines, and then the computer age. Starting with 70s, 80s. The study shows that advancements in AI can be greater productivity gain than all the other three combined. Right? It's so that's where I'm putting my money on. Right? We're collecting the data so that we can use it in a right way to start improving productivity of our customers, create automation so that we're ready for the next industrial revolution. I think that's where it is. I mean, I hear from cybersecurity to cars, obviously, the mobility. It's going to be everywhere. So that's where my money is for the next 5 to 10 years.
I think that's a great summary of the things that a lot of us should be thinking about. That's amazing. So final lap here at Accelerate OC. I always let my guests share kind of a final piece of wisdom or advice. You've shared so much already, but I'm going to ask for one more. So if there's a sort of a key lesson you've learned or a key piece of advice you'd love to leave with the audience on our final lap here, we'd welcome it.
I think the key is to be hungry to learn. That's what I found in my position. I need to have new skills almost every 3 to 6 months. and I read a lot. I have a CEO coach. I talk to people who've been in my shoes 5-10 years ago. I try to learn a lot. I encourage everybody to do that. If you learn and then improve yourself, there's nothing you can't conquer.
Amazing. Well, I thank you so much for taking the time to come in here today and to join us. Thanks for sharing your story and your wisdom and leadership. And I think others will see what I see, that this is a rising star here in Orange County who we all want to keep close to in the coming years, and wish you continued success. Anything you need, I'm here, and the community around Accelerate OC is here as well. You're part of the family. Welcome.
Thank you. Invite me back, and we'll talk more.
Sounds good.
Okay.
You've just listened to Accelerate OC. Join our live recordings every Tuesday morning at accelerateoc.com, or listen, like, and share anytime from your favorite podcast spot. Let's accelerate OC together.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything: your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460. Donate, volunteer, invest, hire.
Imagine buying a newspaper and discovering that the news you're reading is 6 months old. There isn't much that stays the same for 6 months, and the same thing goes for background checks. In a time when so much outdated information is being passed around, it's good to know that People G2 offers something different. At People G2, we provide today's intelligence, not yesterday's news. Our value-added approach offers you a fully FCRA-compliant solution that includes up-to-the-minute information. By combining industry-leading technology with old-school human investigation, People G2 is able to give you information that is accurate right now, delivered quickly through our online system, or integrated with your HR system. So ask yourself, are you comfortable working with old news, or are you ready for a different kind of background check company? Visit peopleg2.com or call 800-630-2880. That's 800-630-2880 or peopleg2.com.
Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for another episode of OC Spotlight, the only show that takes a look at the most amazing people doing the most incredible things right here in your own backyard. And boy, have we got some amazing people and some amazing stories for you, right, Claudia? Our
Right.
Public Affairs Director, Claudia Shambo.
Thank you, everybody. Welcome to OC Spotlight. This is the March 23rd, 2018 edition. My guest today is Brenda Diederichs, Chief Human Resources Officer for the